Hi, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Jean Cadiot, and I'm delighted to be back at the International Dialogue of Civilizations and Tolerance Conference for the third year. First, a little bit of context and a little bit about my background. I wear two hats, not literally today, but two hats. I'm originally from New York, and I'm a writer, producer, and creative director of TV, film, and digital content. In 2014, a new position brought me to the UAE, and I had the great privilege of being here during the creation of the country's Ministry of Tolerance and Coexistence. And I was also here for the Year of Tolerance in 2019 and the Abraham Accords in 2020. I helped co-found the UAE's Jewish community, which I've spoken about previously at IDCT. As for my other hat, in 2021, I joined forces with a humanitarian organization, TOM. TOM stands for Tikkun Olam Makers. Tikkun Olam is an ancient Hebrew phrase meaning to repair the world, and is based on the belief that we, all humans, are here to make the world a better place. And TOM is doing that with our Tech for Good platform. So I'm going to talk about the way we use technology. We organize engineering and design students at universities around the world to produce products and invent products that improve the lives of people with disabilities, known as people of determination in this country, as you know. Tom's work helps the abled and the disabled to get to know each other by working together side by side to solve problems. And Tom empowers the entire world to join this effort, as we've had teams in over 35 countries. Some of the work I'm most proud of that Tom has done is that we also, in addition to these solutions and products, we build peace and coexistence, as we have teams in Palestine and the West Bank and teams in Tel Aviv, each working alongside each other to help those injured and affected by the ongoing wars. This conference and this gathering are an important place where hope is raised and grounded solutions are discussed and created. The conversations and the connections we make here always prove to be fruitful, and I hope you'll find today's to be as well. Today I'm honored to be leading a panel on the topic of freedom of expression and respect for beliefs in the digital public square. We'll be discussing how to balance those two while combating misinformation. I'd like to introduce our panel and have everyone give a further brief introduction. So right here, we've got Ari Matityahu. And Ari is the chairman of WAFA Global based in New York. Ari.
Thank you so much, Jean, for having me, and thank you for this wonderful conference. I've been in this region also since 2014, where I had this feeling that I was sitting in my apartment in New York, and I couldn't sleep, and I felt like I needed to do more in a region that I didn't really understand about, but my heritage comes from here. My father is from Iraq, and growing up, I actually never had such a close connection with this region. But one morning I woke up and I wasn't sleeping well, and I decided to take a one-way ticket from JFK to the region. And I first landed in Riyadh, and then I came here to the UAE. And I still feel like I'm on that one-way ticket. I haven't gone home. So over the years, I've met so many incredible people, and I realized that they have such a passion and thirst for bridging this part of the world with everyone else. So I started a company called WAFA Global. WAFA in Arabic means trust and loyalty. So I wanted to create a company with the words that really embodied not only this conference, but what I was feeling at the time. I was feeling like I had such a loyalty to a region, to a religion that really does embody tolerance and acceptance and love and harmony. I didn't really know a lot about it. So we created WAFA Global, and over the years, I am proud to say that I have helped over 2,000 people from around the world, from 26 different countries, come and visit the UAE specifically and the broader GCC region. And we have engaged in dialogue, in business, and collectively, this is a new stat that I just got. We had almost $200 billion of annual cash flow come through this region over the last 10 plus years. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And then we have Riva Gorelick. Hi, Riva. Riva is the interim director of AJC based in Abu Dhabi.
Thank you, Jean. My name is Riva Gorelick. I work for the American Jewish Committee, which is a global Jewish advocacy organization. We've been engaging in the region for decades, and since 2021, for over 5 years, we're proud to have an office here, the Sydney Lerner Center for Arab Jewish Understanding. The work that AJGC does globally, but especially in the region, focuses on 3 pillars of engagement. One is our traditional diplomatic and government engagement, engaging with leaders across the region, and then more broadly on behalf of AJC across the world. Here, specifically in the region, our second pillar of focus is around business engagement, so making roads for economic opportunity and prosperity across the region. And then thirdly, we focus on civil society, people-to-people engagement, which I know that we're going to talk about in this conversation, but really underscoring the importance of understanding and people-to-people engagement when it comes to building a more prosperous, more safe, stable region for our community and for our neighbors. And with that, I just want to express my gratitude to Jean for hosting this session, to the Emirates Scholar for hosting this conference, which we've been proud to be supporting for 3 years since it started. And of course, our gratitude to the UAE leadership, which makes it not only possible, but encouraged to have this type of dialogue here in the UAE. Thank you.
Thank you, Riva. And next to Riva, we have Brett Scharfs, who is law professor and director of the International Center for Law and Religion Studies at Brigham Young University in Utah.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Our center is a small academic center that is focused on religion and the rule of law. We do this primarily through academic work, through networks, and through conferences, and through teaching and academic programs.
Okay, thank you. And we also want to welcome Pastor Larry Huck, who is the founding pastor of New Beginnings Church in Dallas, Texas. Welcome.
Thank you, Jean, and it's an honor to be here. Just to tell you a little bit about us as a pastor, coming to a conference like this is absolutely amazing. We pastor a church in Dallas, Texas, but we also have a television program that's on every day around the world. I think we're on 2 or 3 times a day in Israel. And in that program, we teach the Jewish roots of our faith, the Jewish roots of the Bible, but we also teach people to stand with Israel and to defeat anti-Semitism. And I'll leave here Monday, and on Wednesday I'll be in Washington, D.C., speaking to members of Congress and the Senate. After that, I'll be in Jerusalem again the next week. It'll be my 51st trip to Israel, and I've seen God do miracles in bridging the gap between evangelicals and Jewish people, from Bibi Netanyahu to Chief Rabbi Lau. Coming to this conference has been an amazing experience. Coming to the UAE has been an amazing. I can't wait to go to Washington and tell people what I saw there. I can't wait to do our next television programs to tell people what I saw here, because we're seeing something that is an example of leadership that is absolutely amazing. The Sheikh leading this nation, first off in signing the Abraham Accords, secondly in peace and unity, and it's not just words, Gene. It's really from the leadership of this great country to the people working in the hotel. This is a nation that I never thought I would see this kind of love between Jew and Muslim and Christian and everybody else. And I'm just so thankful to be invited. Ari invited me here. And this is an amazing thing. The people of the UAE need to be very proud of what's going on here.
Yes, this country has become a beacon for the region, for the world, and we are so happy to be part of it. Very true. So, all right, thank you, and thanks on to our discussion now. Our first question, I'm going to read the question and then we're going to talk about it a bit. How can societies balance freedom of expression with respect for cultural values and societal norms in digital spaces? And I'm going to first mention that with a background in television, and I guess I can kind of speak for the American experience here. We were used to there being a self-regulating industry. We actually had a television industry that was going to self-police rather than have the government intervene. And that was a big responsibility that they took on themselves to make television programming blocks that were safe for children. And now the world has moved at this pace where first the internet, social media, and now AI, big topics at this conference, are there. And there's this pace that we're moving at, that self-regulation did not happen. So with that as some of the context and that thought of how do we balance that freedom of expression with respect for cultural values and societal norms? Riva, would you like to talk about that?
Sure, I can start there. And maybe I'll start just by acknowledging that the sort of IRL version that we have here in the UAE of the cultural diversity in that we have 200 nationalities represented in the UAE. I do not take it for granted for a second that oftentimes when I meet someone, if it's in my apartment building or in my gym or anywhere else that it could be, that I often am the first Jewish woman that people are meeting here. And I don't take that lightly. I take that as a real big responsibility, and what an opportunity to be able to represent my people and to start to set the tone and lay the foundation to demystify misunderstandings and misperceptions that proliferate online. I think that we have an opportunity to counterbalance some of the misinformation that we see online, and it's also, we need to acknowledge that unfortunately leaders of this country in particular have been victim of a wave of anti-Semitic rhetoric targeted towards them, specifically because they have for so many years fostered a sense of diversity and tolerance and acceptance within this country, and it's something that we all have a role to play on to counteract. And so I try to do my part IRL here, and there's more that we need to do to be able to hold digital platforms accountable in order to keep that balance, to keep that equilibrium of openness, dialogue, conversation, to counterbalance what we're seeing online.
It's very interesting because it's that real life experience, which I know other people have been speaking about today, but that real life experience after the Abraham Accords, our Jewish community got very involved in celebrating holidays with our Muslim and our Christian and other counterparts, and we still do many of these cross-cultural and cross-faith events where we had a lovely combination Shabbat dinner and Ramadan iftar when the two overlapped last year, and we tried to keep that going because, and our good friend Saud, who's from the Emirates, was speaking at his previous session. I don't know if he's here now. That breaking of bread and that meeting each other, that getting to know each other, works miracles. That maybe digital is digital capable of that. It's not the experience; it's the intellectual experience, but not the actual experience. Ari, do you want to speak about this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, everything Riva just said was so spot on. I'm not sure I can add much to it, but I'm actually a little scared. I actually do feel the AI digital communities are moving at such a pace today that it is very hard to keep up. Just today was light years different than yesterday. So where I really feel what we need to do as a community, and the UAE is I think leading the way, and I wish we in America can move as fast as they are here. Not only policing, and I don't like that word, but not only monitoring, but I think we need to start teaching the next generation. And my kids are young, and I'm holding off on putting an iPad in front of them. I'm holding off on giving them access to ChatGPT. I really am a little nervous. I'm scared how the digital age is putting information in front of people that is not allowing them to do what we're doing here today, engage face to face. So I feel like maybe what I'm taking away from this conference is we have to do a much better job at fact-checking and making sure that the information that we are absorbing or we're seeing, whether it's generated by AI or someone with a camera doing a selfie interview, we are holding the information and the truth accountable. And I think that's one of the big takeaways that I want to come away with this in this conversation, with this conference. There is no substitution for face-to-face communication. There's no substitution for looking at someone in the eye, but we need to hold each other accountable for the words that we're saying on these platforms, and hopefully combat all the negative lies with the truth. The light will always be brighter than darkness. Will always be brighter than darkness.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. And there is something that has been touched on about the intent. What is your intention in the world when you go to have your face-to-face meeting and when you are opening up your laptop or your phone and you're going to be posting something? What is the intention? And maybe you sometimes have to also think of what is the intention of the person who posted this? Something really interesting. Brett, I'm very curious from a legal perspective if there's something you want to specifically shine some light on with this conversation.
Thanks. When I received this question, I immediately started thinking about it in two ways, both legal responses and non-legal responses. And we have a variety of legal doctrines to try to deal with freedom of expression and the misuse of freedom of expression, and trying to balance those with cultural values. Things like the compelling state interest test and least restrictive means of limiting speech. In the European context, they tend to use tests based on pressing social need and proportionality. We have tests such as incitement to violence and incitement to hatred. And different countries, different cultures are going to adopt different legal tests, and there are intense and interesting debates about what the proper legal tests are. And I think one of the main things we learn from those is that the legal regimes are far from perfect in being able to address the problems of hateful speech and the misuse of freedom of speech that takes place, especially when we get the megaphone of the internet and social media and anonymous speech in particular. And so we need the non-legal, the non-juriscentric approaches more than ever. Even as a law professor, I am always emphasizing that it's going to be the non-juriscentric approaches that are going to be most important. And these, of course, include things like building cultures of tolerance, beginning with programs of education, and having robust civil society that responds to hateful speech with more constructive approaches. And I like that every single question for the rest of the panel is addressing those very things, because that is what we need to be doing, is we need to be thinking about getting beyond the legal solutions to these problems and building resilient responses in our own approaches within our communities and within our institutions that will try to address the hateful speech, the harmful speech that is so prevalent that we find ourselves inundated with.
What a wonderful statement and approach, because that feels like it's stopping it before the incident may happen, even stopping it in the person's thinking and the person's intent before they post something or do some harm, potentially. Okay. And we would love to have you comment on it, Pastor.
Well, a big part of our life is the media. And, something that Ari said, and I was going to say it, and he already said it so well, the only way darkness can win is in the absence of light. There's as all of you know, there's a tradition in Judaism on Hanukkah to take the candles and set them outside so those in darkness can see the light. And I can't help but think, I look at the UAE right here, and the sheikh who led the world in signing the Abraham Accords. I mean, what a light in a world of darkness. The sheikh in the UAE leading the way in religious tolerance, and it's not just words. We see it everywhere we go. What if we took that light and the light that we have, think about the darkness out there, and you got one candle, the UAE, the sheikh, what they're doing. Let's take that light and add what's happening in Israel and the love of God in Israel, and let's take it amongst Christians. The more light we can add, the more the darkness is going to be expelled. And so one of the things in combating false information is, I'm a pastor, but I wasn't raised in church. I was raised in inner city South St. Louis. I was raised in the gangs of the street. So I'm kind of a fighter. And darkness want to fight? Let's fight. But if we all gang up, we can beat that darkness. And there's got to be the boldness. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of people out there that are saying things to try to bring division. And what we do on our program and in our pulpit is we stand up and fight against it. We speak against it. That is not true. And if we don't speak up, then that lie, that false information will be perceived as truth. But when we speak up, we put that darkness out. But can you imagine what happens when we all start speaking up together in our churches, in our synagogues, in our mosques, in our pulpits, on television, in media? We started standing with Israel 33, 34 years ago, and I was labeled a heretic. Now, standing with Israel, love and unity is the fastest growing part of Christianity. Can you imagine when we go back and we say, listen, I met these wonderful Muslim people led by the sheikh in the UAE. We're standing together again. We can beat that darkness.
That's really lovely. And I appreciate the idea of each community being a light and then the lights combining, because that feels that's the only way
Amen.
forward. Yeah. And kind of standing up for each other.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's great. And let's talk about question number 2. What are the key challenges in addressing misinformation while preserving open public dialogue online? And Brett, since you had mentioned you had a look and you found all the questions interesting, what are your thoughts?
Well, when you think about misinformation and addressing it, one of the things that comes immediately to mind is government suppression of information or censorship. And so the big question becomes sort of who decides what is misinformation. And we're all familiar of government overreach and sometimes what governments label misinformation is what is sometimes really malinformation or information that they don't like. And so there are, I think, 2 points here that I would want to make. One is it's important for there to be some mechanism of oversight of the censors so that there's some mechanism for appeal or some mechanism of review of those who are making the decisions. And the second thing that I would say is the coin of the realm is trust. And I love, Ari, that your organization is devoted to the idea, indeed, based on, you've sort of built your entire identity around this idea of trust and loyalty, because trust once lost is really difficult to regain. And so when governments are engaged in the task of addressing misinformation, and it's an important task and one that they probably have to be engaged in, they need to be constantly thinking about their own reservoir of trust and being careful not to exhaust that reservoir, because if they exhaust the trust, it's going to be really difficult for them to have the credibility and the ability to govern and to govern well. And so those are the two things that I would emphasize. One is there needs to be mechanisms for appeal and address, and the people exercising oversight need to really be thinking about trust and being trustworthy.
Thank you for that. Thank you. The next question I'm going to ask is, how can digital platforms contribute to reducing polarization and promoting respectful discourse? And I'm going to turn to you, Pastor, because you're obviously very involved in media, and I'm presuming your program is streaming as well, and you're in that space. So I'd love to hear what you said, especially since we talked about the light.
Yeah, once again, being bold enough to shine the light. In our church, we have rabbis in all the time. We have Jewish people in all the time. I met the twins here that are running this, and they said, we want to come to Dallas and see your church. I said, come sit. Let's do television together. We met yesterday with His Holiness from the temple, and we spent an hour and a half together. It was like we were best friends. And he contacted Ari, and he said, can we go and visit Pastor? We'll bring them on, because we're not talking about this religion is right and that religion is wrong. We're talking about we are all children of God, children of the universe, and if we can show that we can get along and love one another. When I first started doing this in Israel and standing with Israel, now, I'll sit with Prime Minister Netanyahu, I'll sit with Rabbi Lau, I'll sit with whoever, because they know we love them. And my wife was having me a ring made by a lady there, an Israeli lady, and she's talking, and she finally says, after 4 or 5 conversations on the phone, she said, you and your husband are pastors? And she said, yes. And she said, don't you hate us? And so the key is to show the world we love one another. And I know I keep saying this, I'm blown away what I've seen in the UAE. I'm blown away. I can't wait to go back and tell people this nation is setting the pace. Let's take that. Let's let it be an avalanche of standing with one another and loving one another. And how wonderful it is to sit with a Muslim, with a Hindu, with a Jew on the same platform and say, you know what? We all love God, but what's even more important, we love each other.
Amen. 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 Exactly. That was really lovely. And also for everyone who was here for the opening, the head of the Hindu community spoke, and those words were perfect opening for this conference.
Wonderful.
Really wonderful. So my next question: what role should civil society and youth programs play in fostering tolerance in online environments? Riva, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I have many thoughts on this.
Excellent. I was hoping that you would.
Great.
So please go ahead.
So, let me. I'll just say that I'm very proud to work for an organization that prioritizes this type of people-to-people engagement as part of the fabric of our advocacy efforts. I think that, so many of us have given examples of this, but when you know someone, your perception changes, and those experiences can just multiply in magnitude as far as in their impact. So, we've been really proud to bring delegations from the region across the other parts of the region and to facilitate introductions and connections. And those are the kinds of introductions that, for example, when there is an Iranian attack in Bahrain, an Israeli friend can check in with their Bahraini friend to gut check what they're reading about, to check in with them personally, to convey their support, and those are the kinds of things that, like, when it allows us to challenge, criticize, demystify some of the misinformation that we read about, because you have a living, breathing person who you're connected with, who you have a trusting relationship with, that you can check all of that with. Now, obviously, that's not always going to be possible, right? You're not always going to know somebody in a country that you're reading about in the news or that's being spoken about with wrong information, but we can start somewhere, and I also just want to say that the work that we're doing around civil society is really important when it comes to challenging information that you're seeing online. Media, digital literacy has to be part of these kinds of programs. We need to equip our young generation, especially, with the tools that they have, that they need to be able to challenge what they're seeing online. And I'll also just say that knowing, at least from my perspective, our American Jewish Committee does research every year. Our most recent State of Anti-Semitism in America report found and reported that 73% of American Jews have experienced anti-Semitism, if that's online or in person, and that's the highest number that's the highest that number has been since AJC started conducting that research. That needs to be top of our mind, and that propels our work. And I'll also just say another statistic that we found in that is that 54% of U.S. adults who know a Jewish person personally report anti-Semitism, whereas 32% of U.S. adults who know a Jewish person report anti-Semitism. There's a discrepancy there. And what we learn from that is that knowing someone Jewish matters. When you know someone, you can identify with them, you can see the hate that's targeted towards them, and you can call it out when you see it. So I think this kinds of civil society, people-to-people engagement, for us, it's not just about building the relationships and the friendships, which are so warm and so important to us day to day, but it equips us to be able to stand by our friends and to promote friendship and allyship.
Yes, yes. And it seems that when hate and hate language escalate, there's the ugly language that happens is usually dehumanizing. And when you know the human, you can no longer have these
100%.
extreme thoughts because you're seeing the person. So such an important thought. Oh,
Jean,
yeah.
would you be okay if I commented on not only what Riva said, but I actually want to share a tidbit with everyone here, and maybe you all know this, but I want to share something that really resonated with me. Your question was about civil society and even youth programming, right? How can we protect our kids? And I want to share a very quick story. And again, if you've heard of this before, I apologize. When Iran was attacking this region and sending almost 2,000 rockets and drones to the UAE, yes, people were scared. People were unsure. The leader, Sheikh Nahyan, called his team together in an emergency session, and they're going around, they're talking about different actions that they need to take to protect the people, the expats, the locals, the Emiratis, anyone who has called this place their home and their safe haven. And as he's going around the room, in addition to all the military decisions that they were making, he turned to one of his advisors and he says, "I have the most important job for you to do." And the advisor looks at him and he says, "Anything, tell me, give me my marching orders." And he instructs this individual, this advisor, and he says, "Go around to every single principal of the schools." The guy looks at him and says, "Principals? Sure, what do you want me to do?" And he says, "You have the most important job. Instruct every principal of every school in this country and tell them that we will not stand for any hate. We will not stand for any aggression in our schools, our bullying, our anger. We want to teach and protect our young kids today in this country that even though we are receiving the hate, we're receiving all these drones, we will not retaliate in kind." And I think to your question, and to Riva's point, we need to protect our youth. We need to protect the engagement and make sure that we don't handle hate with hate. And they're leading the way here with that. And it talks about really, Professor, that government interaction, and that government enforcement. they went straight to the youth.
Yes.
So I
and
wanted to
thank
just
you.
share that
Thank
story
you for
with
that.
everyone here.
Thank you for that, and I know we're short on time. So I wanted to say that it came back to this in-person, the fact that first you have the home, but I love this story about the sheikh, because then as the child's in school, how to get that in-person intention set correctly so the person can be a light as they go forward in their life and go forward online. We're about to wrap up. Does anyone else have a final thing they need to add? I would like to say that again, as we have said here, we're so grateful for the leadership of this country and to be able to have this fantastic conference, and we're so thankful to the Emirates Scholar Organization. Thank you everyone for being with us today and listening. And remember, your in-person activities and interactions are what set the tone for everything else. We hope you'll take that with you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I sing now?
Now you can sing.
It's getting to a rockette kicking.